the passive voice. How do we form and when to use the passive voice? We form it with the verb to be in the appropriate tense and the past participle of the main verb. It is very important to know that only transitive verbs can be used in the passive. A transitive verb is a verb that can take an object. We have an example. He bought a new coat. In this case, the verb bought is considered, it is a transitive verb. That's why it is used here, and it can be changed into passive. Here we have sentences in present simple and present continuous. In active, they clean the house every day. When we change the sentence into passive, we say, the house is cleaned every day. Because, as I mentioned earlier, we should use the verb to be in the appropriate tense and the main verb in past participle. In this case, and they clean the house every day, the main verb is clean. It is present simple, so the verb to be should be in present simple. The house is cleaned. Now the main verb should be in past participle. The house is cleaned every day. In present continuous, we say, they are cleaning the house now. While when we change it into passive, we say, the house is being cleaned every day. In continuous sentences, we use being to tell that the tense is in continuous. In past simple, sentences like, they cleaned the house yesterday, we change them into passive this way. The house was cleaned yesterday. They were cleaning the house at 10 o'clock. Yesterday is the sentence in past continuous. The house was being cleaned at 10 o'clock yesterday. Again, the house was, this is the verb to be in the appropriate tense, while being tells us the tense, the continuous tense, and the main verb in past participle, cleaned. Perfect tenses, present and past perfect. They have already cleaned the house. The house has already been cleaned. In perfect tenses, we use the verb been this way to tell that the tense is imperfect, and the rest as I told you before. Future simple. For example, they will clean the house tomorrow. The house will be cleaned tomorrow. With modals, they can clean the house can be cleaned. The usage. The passive is used when the person or people who do the action are not known or not important, or they're obvious from the context, like, the window was broken. In this case, we don't know who broke it. It's not important. It's important that the action was done. We also use the passive in newspaper headlines and in formal statements or formal instructions, like smoking is prohibited in the museum. You have to be very careful with the meaning when changing a sentence from active into passive. You mustn't change the meaning of the statement. You have just to switch the emphasis from the subject to the object, to the direct object. The object becomes the subject in the passive sentence. The shop assistant called the police. Now, this is the object of the active sentence that becomes the subject of the passive sentence. The police were called by the shop assistant. While the subject of the active sentence becomes the agent, and it is introduced with the preposition by, like Sam made breakfast. This is the subject of the active sentence that becomes the agent of the passive sentence. Breakfast was made by Sam. The agent can be omitted when the subject is they, somebody, people, etc. They have eaten all the food. All the food has been eaten. Not important who did that, who ate the food. While the agent cannot be omitted when the subject is a specific or important person, or when it is essential to the meaning of the statement. Like, Jamie Oliver opened a restaurant. The restaurant was opened by Jamie Oliver. In this case, we can't leave the agent out. Don't forget that present perfect continuous and the past perfect continuous are not normally used in the passive. And we can use the verb to get instead of the verb to be in everyday speech when we talk about things that happen by accident or unexpectedly. His car got damaged in the accident. Also, with verbs which take two objects such as bring, tell, offer, pay, promise, etc., we can make two different passive sentences, like he gave her a cookery book. Here we have a verb that takes two objects. That's why we can have two different passive sentences. She was given a cookery book is one version. A cookery book was given to her. So which one you use, it's correct, but it's just important to know what you want to emphasize more. For further explanations, you can read the Grammar Reference Bank 9 and 10 in your students' books. Thank you very much. See you.